There's always a backup in case. The Secretary General is appalled by the tragic human toll of the conflict in Gaza, in which more than 30,000 people have now reportedly been killed and over 70,000 injured. Tragically, an unknown number of people lie under the rubble. The Secretary General condemns the incident today in northern Gaza, in which more than 100 people were reportedly killed or injured while seeking life-saving aid. The desperate civilians in Gaza need urgent help, including those in the besieged northern part of Gaza, where the United Nations has not been able to deliver aid for more than a week. The Secretary General reiterates his call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and the unconditional release of all the hostages held in Gaza. He once again calls for urgent steps so that critical humanitarian aid can get into and across Gaza for all those who so desperately need it. We also have OIOS on their work regarding the allegations put forward by Israel. We also have a statement from the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Martin Griffiths, who has warned that life is draining out of Gaza at a terrifying speed, with the reported death toll across Gaza that we've just mentioned. Mr. Griffiths also said he is appalled by the reported killing and injury of hundreds of people in Gaza during a transfer of aid supplies in west of Gaza City today.
Just said, well, as a follow-up, you just said it wasn't a delivery in which the UN was involved. Do you know who was involved in the delivery?
No, I mean, all we know is from what we've seen in the press report. So I don't have any information more than you do.
Okay, my question.
You think these people died because of a violent act?
These people died because there is a conflict that is going on. These people died because humanitarian aid has not been able to be delivered in a safe manner. I keep saying here, right, that the way we operate right now is not safe. And I said it even yesterday. It is not safe for those people who deliver the aid. It is not safe for people who receive the aid. This is a chaotic, opportunistic humanitarian operation that we're trying to run. We don't know exactly, I mean, as far as we're concerned, we don't know exactly what happened, but whether people were shot and died as a result of Israeli gunfire, whether they were crushed by a crowd, whether they were run over by trucks, these are all acts of violence, in a sense, due to this conflict.
And do you have more information about?
Yeah.
Gaza health authorities said more than 100 Palestinians were fatally shot by Israeli forces as they waited for an aid delivery on Thursday. In this graphic video obtained by Reuters, Gazans can be seen carrying the injured and the bodies of the dead on donkey carts. The White House called the reports a serious incident. We mourn the loss of innocent life and recognise the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, where innocent Palestinians are just trying to feed their families, a White House National Security Council statement said. The largest single loss of civilian lives in weeks in Gaza came as the overall death toll passed 30,000 people in nearly 5 months of conflict, according to Palestinian health officials. Medical teams said they were unable to cope with the volume and severity of the injuries from Thursday's incident, with dozens of wounded taken to the Ashifa hospital, which is only partially operational after Israeli raids. In another video, bodies and the wounded are piled onto what is said to be an aid truck. Reuters was able to verify the location, but not when it was filmed. UN Aid Chief Martin Griffiths said he was appalled at the reported killings and injuries. At Kamal Adwan Hospital, this witness, who didn't give his name, said people found out aid would be delivered to the Nablus area and headed there.
Then, at 5 minutes to 4, we were surprised by Israeli tanks that came out and opened fire on people randomly and directly. Immediately afterwards, all we found were martyrs, the injured and the wounded, scattered on the ground in a chaotic and horrifying manner. This is my brother who went to bring food for his children. He was injured, trying to get a living.
aid deliveries to northern Gaza have been rare and chaotic, passing through more active military zones, to an area where the UN says many people are starving. Israel has challenged the reported death toll in Thursday's incident. Its military released this video it said showed people crowding round aid trucks. A military official said dozens were injured or killed by being trampled or run over. He said some of the people who rushed the convoy approached Israeli forces, including a tank, which then opened fire. US President Joe Biden, asked if he thought the incident would complicate truce talks taking place in Qatar, said, "I know it will." Hamas warned in a statement those efforts, which are aimed at securing a ceasefire and hostage release, could now be jeopardized. The war in Gaza began when Hamas sent fighters into Israel on October 7th, killing around 1,200 people and seizing 253 hostages, according to Israeli tallies. The office of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said he, quote, condemned the ugly massacre conducted by the Israeli occupation army this morning.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this heinous massacre against our people. According to the information that we have, dozens of them have bullets in their heads. It's not like, firing in the sky to restrain people if there was confusions and chaos. It was intentionally targeting and killing. And the number that we have now is 112 have been killed, and the number is increasing, and 750 injured, and possibly the number would be increasing. This outrageous, massacre is a testimony to the fact that as long as the Security Council is paralyzed and vetoes casted, then it is costing the Palestinian people their lives. There is no way except a ceasefire to be put in place. And even I said to the ambassador of the United States that there is nothing that can prevent you, if you have clout over Israel, have a unilateral ceasefire put in place for as long as you want. You don't need a resolution in the Security Council.
At this point, what more can you do now that you've called for a ceasefire to urge Israel to stop?
Indeed, we have called for a ceasefire. When it comes to what happened in Gaza today, you've heard me. I must say, I think this is a nightmare. I think the violence must stop. I think civilians can not be targeted. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that international aid is sent into Gaza and that people are protected when they go and get that aid that they need to survive. So we are calling for both parties to respect the International Court of Justice decision, and at all times, international humanitarian law must be respected.
Do you believe that Israel is targeting civilians at this point?
More than 100 Palestinians are reported to have been killed and many more injured. I first of all want to express the United States' deepest condolences to the families of those who died. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed over the course of this conflict, not just today, but over the past nearly 5 months. We are urgently seeking additional information on exactly what took place. We have been in touch with the Israeli government since early this morning and understand that an investigation is underway. We will be monitoring that investigation closely and pressing for answers. If there's anything that the aerial footage of today's incident makes clear, it is just how desperate the situation on the ground is. People need more food. They need more water. They need medicine and other humanitarian goods, and they need it now. Our understanding is that there was a commercial convoy delivering humanitarian assistance, that there were no UN agencies involved. They were delivering assistance, and then beyond that, we have seen obviously conflicting reports. We've seen the reports from the government of Israel. We've seen accounts from local Palestinians who were on the scene. We don't have ground truth on what happened. We have been pushing for an opening of a crossing in northern Gaza is because we know that the situation there is incredibly dire. Even when you've had assistance flowing, not enough assistance flowing ever, but certainly over the past few weeks, not enough assistance flowing in the south, at least there has been assistance getting in. The situation in the north has been much more difficult because of the difficulty of trucks traveling all the way from the south to the north and the difficulty of guarding those trucks, which I think is one of the things that we saw today. We were in touch at senior levels with the government of Israel early this morning, U.S. time. Obviously, Israel is 7 hours ahead of us, so by the time we woke up here, people in Israel in the embassy were already in touch, and those contacts were followed up by people here in the State Department pushing for answers and we're told that there's an investigation, and we'll look to see what the results of that investigation yield and what further measures, if any, are appropriate. I will speak on behalf of the United States and say that the Secretary has made clear directly in conversations with Israeli government partners, and as of others in the United States government, that we want to see a crossing open in the north as soon as possible. And where we are today is that we have said we cannot support an operation in Rafah unless there is a credible and executable plan to deal with the more than 1 million civilians who are sheltering there. And we have not yet seen such a plan. We haven't been briefed on such a plan, and we can't support it until we see that plan. And so to speculate about what may happen down the road, I, of course, can't do. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'll take it one step at a time and say right now there's not a plan in place that we have seen that we can endorse. I will say whatever the exact number is of civilians that have been killed, it is far too high, which is what you heard me addressing a moment ago, and which is why we continue to try to perceive a temporary ceasefire that would alleviate that suffering.
No IDF strike was conducted towards the aid convoy. I want to repeat that. No IDF strike was conducted towards the aid convoy. On the contrary, the IDF was there conducting a humanitarian operation to secure the humanitarian corridor and allow the aid convoy to reach its designated distribution point. This humanitarian aid came from Egypt, went through a security screening at the Kerem Shalom humanitarian crossing in Israel, and then entered Gaza for distribution by private contractors. As these vital humanitarian supplies were making their way towards Gazans in need, thousands of Gazans dispensed upon the trucks. Some began violently pushing and even trampling other Gazans to death, looting the humanitarian supplies. The unfortunate incident resulted in dozens of Gazans killed and injured. At 4:40 a.m., The first aid truck in the humanitarian convoy started making its way through the humanitarian corridor that we were securing. Yes, the IDF was securing the humanitarian corridor so that the aid convoy could reach its destination in northern Gaza. Our tanks were there to secure the humanitarian corridor for the aid convoy. Our UAVs were there in the air to give our forces a clear picture from above during this humanitarian operation. As you can see in this video, the tanks that were there to secure the convoy sees the Gazans being trampled and cautiously tries to disperse the mob with a few warning shots. When the hundreds became thousands and things got out of hand, the tank commander decided to retreat to avoid harm to the thousands of Gazans that were there.